What is up, everybody? Duster McDangles here tonight with a new series that's going to be taking place on the channel throughout the year as we go along. Super excited for the late puck drop here, the puck drop episode. This is what we're going to be calling this series. Just getting things set up here with the stream. I am the producer, talent, all of that, all in one. So stick with me, guys, as we start up this series. I know I tried doing this a little bit last year, just unable to really get it going with things going on with personal life and whatnot, but I thank you all so much for those who are around here, who are on the channel, who are joining the community, and if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be talking all NHL all season long. And today's a super exciting episode. We've got a lot on deck here when it comes to talking about my predictions for this upcoming season, as well as talking about specific teams, getting not too super crazy in depth, but as you guys can see on the screen, we've got my channel pulled up here. Again, if you guys are new, hit that subscribe button. I'll be checking the chat every so often on the right-hand side, so if the actual screen picture looks a little different, or if I'm looking over here to the right hand side, I'm making sure to check in with the live stream chat as well. And then segments of this video will also be broken up into more smaller bite-sized videos for you guys to go ahead and check out during the week. As of right now, we are going to be shooting for this video or this live series of the puck drop to come out every Sunday night. We're going to stream it every Sunday night at 7 p.m. and it is going to be super exciting all the way throughout the year. If we grow, and that depends on you guys, if you guys want to help me make this a potential full-time thing and covering the NHL and whatnot, and it all depends on you guys. If you show love and support, if you join the channel, hit the likes, hit the subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff, we can definitely get in a good place where I'm able to cover this for you guys full-time, 24/7, 365. Obviously, there'll be some downtime for me when it comes to some sleep and whatnot, but that's the goal. We're going to get there together, and I know you guys will do a great job with that. So, on the screen right now, again, you guys see me in the bottom right-hand corner. I know the actual stream setup does look a little blank. I'm looking at the screen off to my right, as it looks like, again, where you see the GFUEL ticker, it will be the GFUEL ticker once the season gets going, but there's really no hockey as of right now. There have been a couple preseason games, and we'll highlight a few of note here in today's episode, but we're not going to be getting into anything too crazy. We'll have typically on the screen the ticker, maybe some sort of lines that we like for the night or the upcoming week. When it comes to my thoughts on that, typically maybe we'll try to do a 3-pack of picks for the week. We'll have that on the bottom right above the ticker, and then on the right side we will definitely throw some highlighted games throughout the week on the schedule, where to view them. That'll be in the top right-hand corner above where you see my face in the bottom right hand screen, and then we've got our screen share in the top left. So a little bit of a layout for you guys when it comes to what the screen will look like. Again, it is blank tonight, but that is for a reason and is on purpose. So again, it's just me, the screen share, and then the rest of the stuff will be in videos in the future. But man, oh man, we are getting close to the hockey season. It is super exciting. It is right around the corner. I believe 17 days away now from regular season hockey. You can smell it right around the corner. The Zamboni fumes, the sweaty hockey gear. We are getting ever so close to that time period. But again, that is going to be enough for actually looking at my channel. Again, you guys can see that on the screen right now as we speak. Again, we just actually hit 600 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for the love and support. That was one of my goals before the season started, was to hit 600, and that is thanks to you guys. So if you guys keep it up, show the love and support, we are going to try and go ahead and hit, let's say, 750 before, let's say, the All-Star break. Let's hit that mark, and we'll continue to grow, and I know you guys will do a great job with that, getting everything to where it should be. But And I'm going to say that might be one of my go-to moves here throughout the season. Topics for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the NHL Global Series. Super exciting games between the Kings and Coyotes. I was able to catch about the first period of that first game out there in Melbourne, Australia. I think it's awesome what the NHL is doing, growing the game. Really cool story. Tons of good videos on YouTube to check out when it comes to them getting the rink out there, getting it set up, where they're actually playing it, which is where the Australian Open tennis finals typically are. So again, all cool stories. The ice definitely didn't look like it was the best, but it was ice, and they made ice out there in Australia. So super exciting. A couple good games, a real good play. I'd say in the first game. Second game is a little bit more of a sort of dry game, stale game. Nothing too crazy going for it in that one. But that first one, Logan Cooley, holy smokes, that kid, he's going to be something special. So really exciting stuff there. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. And then we've got our season predictions. Super excited about this one. You guys can see on the screen right here, we will be ranking each team where I think they will finish, and specifically more so in their division. I'm not necessarily going to state that, yes, this team might make the playoffs. I'll probably say that for a few couple teams because I know the wild card spots start getting in there with that 4th and 5th position. So even though they will finish in that position in their division, it doesn't necessarily mean they will actually make the playoffs. So that's one thing to keep in mind whenever I'm going through that this video. But let me quickly go ahead and check in with you guys, making sure that I'm not missing any comments or anything, and so far so good. That is where we're going to go. Honestly, going to try to keep this under an hour. I think we'll be able to do so with doing that. Super keen on keeping all these episodes underneath an hour for you guys. But let's go ahead. Let's get started. First and foremost, producer, be sure to cut it right here. This is the end point, and we will get into it. NHL. Let's redo that. This is the first cut. NHL Global Series. Super excited to see it this year, and they went to Melbourne, Australia. Thought it was a very, very successful trip for them, able to sell out both games. Again, the arena not being too super big, as you guys can see on the screen here. Nice little picture, and I'm sort of looking down at the screen right now. Kings and Coyotes go the distance for the Global Series Melbourne success. They stayed back-to-back sellouts, engaged fans, highlight league's first trip to the Southern Hemisphere. Man, I can definitely think that those guys, those players on both the Kings and Coyotes were definitely severely jet-lagged, as actually the Coyotes had to play against St. Louis literally, I think it was yesterday, so they had to fly all the way back from Australia, catch a red-eye type deal, and play another hockey game then in North America, which is just absolutely insane. Again, overall, super success for the NHL. I think trying to grow the game in another country. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. I thought the announcing was good. Video looked good. The games, I guess if you want to break down the games themselves, Game 1, definitely a little bit more exciting than Game 2. Had that crazy good highlight from Logan Cooley. That kid is going to be an absolute stud. Honestly, after seeing what he did, I fully expect him to have a very solid season. I think 45 points will be on the low end for him. So if there are any bets out there for his over-under with points, don't know if there is or what that would be, but I would definitely hammer the over for points on him if it's around that 40 to 45 mark. He's definitely going to leave an impression this upcoming season. I think a couple other noteworthy things from the games after watching them, specifically speaking for each team, I'd say for the Coyotes, it definitely looks like they have a little bit of forward depth with some pieces that they brought over. Matt Dumba looked pretty decent. Again, it is only preseason hockey, so not going to be anything too super crazy when it comes to in-depth analysis of their play, because, again, it's preseason. They don't want to go too super hard. Yes, they're still going to compete. They'll give their best, but they're not going to go out of their way to potentially get injured or anything like that with 50-50 plays. But the Coyotes, I think Logan Cooley looked good. Mancini. Let me pull up their team actually right now, because I don't want to get his last name completely screwed up. We've got Cap Friendly, who's our best friend on this one. Matthias Michelli. He looked very good. Really excited to see what he can do this upcoming year. I thought he looked awesome out there. Good speed, good vision, good shot. Had a lot of good chances. Zucker looked very good. I think one of the bigger surprises for the entire series that I saw of series back-to-back games against the Kings for them. Lawson Krause, I thought, looked very good. Clayton Keller looked good on the back end. Dursey definitely looked weird seeing him play against the Kings in this game, or in these games. Vilimaki looked pretty decent. Goaltending, it looked okay. Nothing too crazy. I think that might be their weakest point this upcoming season. But if I had to then, let's take a look and talk about the LA Kings. Holy smokes, they're going to be a good hockey team. Kopitar, Dubois looked very good. Kempe looked awesome out there. The vision, Byfield looked very good as well. But I think the most poignant person out there that I saw in the highlights and watching a little bit live of that first game was Kevin Fiala. Man, this guy, I expect at least 85 points from Kevin Fiala. He looked absolutely unbelievable. Again, it is preseason. Don't want to get our hopes too high, or don't want to get our expectations too high, but this guy looks very good, poised to have a strong comeback year after a injury-riddled season last year. Dude puts up 85 points. I will not be surprised in the least whatsoever. So that'll be interesting there. Back end looked solid enough. Drew Doughty, Gavrikov, Anderson, they looked good. Brent Clark, I thought looked very good. I think he'll probably play this year. Goaltending, again, probably going to be their biggest hole in general when it comes to their chances this upcoming season. But overall, I thought the LA Kings looked very good. They're poised to have a very strong year, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in just a second, as that's pretty much my thoughts on going abroad. The Global Series, I thought was another success this year, so kudos to the NHL for putting that on and making it happen down under in Australia. They made it happen. Who knows where they're going to take the game next, to maybe South Africa, potentially to like Johannesburg in the future, or maybe, who knows, maybe Japan. There's a bunch of different countries out there that I feel like you could take the game to, but honestly, success taking it to Melbourne, Australia. Kudos to the NHL and the players for getting it done. They put on a great show for the Aussies down under. Moving on then in the episode here today, just taking a quick peek to see if there's anything going right now for chat. Also just checking on the stream health. So give me just one moment and let me know down below in the comments as well, or in the side on the comments. Let's see here. Making sure things are properly set up. Let's make sure this is good. Let's go here. Just switching. I have another account that I'm able to actually see and make sure. Yeah. Okay, cool. So it is indeed live. It is good. I can see myself looking at my screen right there. So we are good there. That is awesome. Success on night one. Apologies for the delay, but we will continue on in this episode. Again, this will be a full breakdown for you guys. We are getting into our predictions, and this is one of my favorite times of the year. I know last year, you guys can go back and look. I did have my predictions last year. I think I did it by conference. In this episode, we'll do it by division. We'll do a couple breakdowns here and there, and then we'll see how long this goes. But really, really excited to get this one underway. We'll start with the Western Conference first, and then we'll get to the Eastern Conference second, and then we will continue on from there. But we'll go ahead and make sure we get this cut right here. Here is the end point as we go ahead and get into the Pacific Division. And here for the Pacific Division, when it comes to my predictions this upcoming season, you can see the teams on the board in the Pacific Division. If you guys are new to hockey, most of you probably aren't. You should probably know who is in the Pacific Division as I take a look here. Anaheim, San Jose, Vancouver, Calgary, Seattle, LA, Edmonton, and then the Vegas Golden Knights. And it's going to be definitely a battle this year for sure. I think, it's going to be quite an interesting year overall, I think. So I'm just moving the teams over to my right, and then we'll pop up here my predictions for where they were last year, or where they were last year. I can see on my right. On my left is the board where I think that they're going to finish this year, and it is in particular order. So we've got the board pulled up here. We can talk about teams really quickly. A little breakdown. Anaheim Ducks were last place in the division last year, finished the year off. Let's see here, 23-47 and 12 for 58 points. One of the worst teams in the NHL. And moving forward this year, they are definitely lacking some depth. They brought in some veteran talent with Alex Killorn. They brought in Racco Gudis as well, which I thought were good additional pieces to add to the team. But overall, I don't see where this team improves too much. With 58 points last year being their high, I think they do a little bit better than that when it comes to where I think they will get the points done. But I'm starting off with this team in this video, not being too super discreet about it, because I do think that they are going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. Maybe not as bad as last year, but I've got them 8th in the Pacific. I don't see them doing any better than that. Maybe 7th, depending on who they beat out for the better of the worst teams, if you want to put it that way. I do think there will be some bright spots for this team. Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Leo Carlsson if he makes the team and plays. I think Adam Henrique will have a solid year as well. Trevor Zegras, they still haven't gotten a deal done with him, and I think that's a little concerning because he probably wants a long-term deal, but they probably only want to give him a bridge deal or vice versa. Who knows exactly what's going to happen? Does John Gibson stay? Are they able to play good defense? I don't see it with the Ducks, but again, bright spots. Terry, I think, is going to have a fun year to watch. McTavish, Zegras, whenever they get him signed, and then most importantly, Carlsson, I think, will be fun if he does indeed make the team, but I do have them finishing last in the division for the Pacific. Second to last, it was kind of a toss-up between two teams as I'm looking at it right now. Where they finished last year is pretty much where I think they'll finish this upcoming season, but it's really depending on the order in which I want to do it, and I think it will be the order it was last year. Second to last in the division, I think they've got a long way to go for their rebuild. Mike Greer's got a lot to do with that, but I think he'll eventually make it work, as the Sharks were definitely a tough team to play in the past. And again, yes, we are talking about the San Jose Sharks. They are my next worst team for the division. I think they will finish 7th in the Pacific. Again, losing Carlsson, their top player. They do still have, I guess, if you want to call it, depth. They still have Hurdle. They still have Couture. LeBanc. They got Mike Hoffman. Anthony Duclair, I think, will be interesting to see how he does, if he's going to be a piece that's moved at the trade deadline or not. Philip Zadina, another interesting player that they were able to bring in. Oscar Lindbaum, I'm pretty sure he was there last year, if I'm not mistaken. But they're also a little old on the back end for my liking. Mark-Edward Vlasic, probably not a great contract for the type of player he is now. Ferraro, I think, will be an interesting player and what he can do this upcoming season. Jan Rutta, they were able to get him in on that deal with the Penguins for that Carlsson. And other than that, Kakinen and Blackwood are the goaltenders. I think it's going to be a long, tough road for this team this upcoming year. Last year, they finished with 60 points. I think anywhere from 60 to 65 is a realistic spot for the San Jose Sharks. I don't see it happening this year. The lack of depth, I think they have maybe 2 lines of competent forwards in the NHL. William Eklund, I think, will be the biggest bright spot for them this upcoming season. If you want to watch their games, watch for him. William Eklund, mark it down. Dude's going to be an absolute stud in the NHL years to come. But I think this year will kind of be a little bit of a learning curve if he does make the team. And if he does, anywhere from 40 to 50 points, I think would be a successful season for him personally. But overall, as a team, I don't expect too many big years. Maybe Hurdle surprises a lot of people. Maybe they play Hurdle with Eklund and maybe Zadina, or I don't know how their lines are going to shake up, but definitely going to be interesting to see what they do this upcoming season with the team that they specifically have. Getting into it now, I'm just taking a look at the time. We might need to speed up my breakdowns of each team and who I think is going to finish where. Next up on the list, I've got the Vancouver Canucks. I have them finishing 6th in the division, which is where they finished last year. I do see potential for improvement. They did get the new coaching staff in there, which will be interesting. I'm trying to find... There they are, Vancouver Canucks. Overall, I think they will do a little bit better this upcoming season. Not too much. They finished last year with a total of 83 points, which wasn't terrible. So I expect them around 78 to 85. Again, them finishing 6th this year. I feel like that's going to be spot on the money. JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, will they have big years? It's a contract year for Pettersson. Brock Besser, Kuzmenko, can they keep it up? Garland, I know he had a kind of a struggling year coming over from the Coyotes. Can he step it up? Can Bolivier have a solid contract year on the back end? New captain, Captain Hughes, Quinn Hughes, will he be able to put it together on the back end and maybe have a big year, potentially anywhere from 80 to 90 points if he can stay healthy? I think that's definitely something that can happen. Thatcher Demko, can he get it done between the pipes? I know he's kind of been their missing piece the last couple of years of, I thought he was supposed to be a good goalie, but with injuries and just not great defense in front of him, it's kind of hard to stop the puck all the time when you're getting peppered with like 30 to 38 shots a game. I feel like that's not a recipe for success for any team and any goaltender whatsoever. So I have them slotted in at 6th this upcoming season. Next up on the list for teams, this is definitely a tough one that I'm kind of going back and forth on. I think this team's going to bounce back, but as of right now, I'm taking the chalk of how they finished last year, and that is the Calgary Flames. I think they will finish 5th in the division this upcoming season, just like they did last year. Finished off the year with 93 points. They did miss out on the playoffs by 2 points below the Winnipeg Jets. It's going to be interesting to see how life is without Daryl Sutter as their head coach of their hockey team. I'm really interested to see what they can do. Honestly, the biggest key points this year, can Huberdeau finally get back to what he did his last year in Florida? I think that is the big key. Same with Mackenzie Weegar. Can they get back to form? And if they can, this team is definitely deep enough to make a push for the playoffs. You've got Kadri, Backlund, Coleman, Lindholm, Sharon Govich. They were able to get, which I think is huge, Dylan Dubé, Marjapani. There's a lot of good pieces now. Hannafin, Anderson, Tanev. They have one of the deepest back ends in the NHL. You've got Markstrom and Vladar between the pipes. So I think sky's the limit for the Flames. I think they could make the playoffs. I just don't think they will. I still think there's going to be a little bit of getting used to things without Sutter, but maybe they prove us wrong and they go on a crazy run to the playoffs, almost like the Florida Panthers did at the end of the season last year. So that's my 5th team for the Pacific Division. Next up, this is a really tough one. It's between 2 teams, really. And I'm going chalk again. It's going to be the Seattle Kraken. I think this year, the cat's out of the bag. Teams know who they are. They know what they're about. They know what they're getting themselves into when they're going to play this team. As I'm going to pull them up, I got to find them first. Seattle Kraken. Look for that logo, baby. But I think cat's out of the bag. Burakovsky, I think he will be back this year better than ever, fully healthy and recovered, which I think will be a huge get for them to have him back in the lineup. Jordan Emberley, Schwartz, Bjorkstrand, Gord, McCann, Wenberg, Tanev, Yamamoto, Tolov. I mean, you can go down the list. I haven't even said Matty Beniers yet, and they are just so deep They don't necessarily have any superstars, but they are definitely super, super deep when it comes to their depth. You can roll any line out there, and it will go against any top 3 lines that any NHL team has and be competitive with it. Not necessarily saying that they won't have their struggles, but this team is deep. On the back end, you've got Dunn, Alexiak, Larson, Dumoulin, Schultz, Borgen, Fleury, and Megna. And then between the pipes, I think, is the biggest question mark. You've got Grubauer, Dreger, and they also have Decor, Joey Decor. I think Grubauer's health is probably going to be the biggest question mark for the season. And if he's able to have that injury help and not get hurt this upcoming year, I think sky's the limit for the Seattle Kraken. They finished last year with 100 points. Fully expect them to be around that mark and make the playoffs this upcoming season. But should be interesting for sure how they do. That's the 4th team, I think, in the Pacific Division and where they will finish. Up next, 3rd place for what I think will happen, LA Kings. We're taking chalk once again from how they finished last year. LA, I know we talked about them a little bit in the Global Series and how they did, how they looked. I don't really need to say too much else other than keep an eye out on Kevin Fiala. This guy's going to be an absolute stud this upcoming season. I expect anywhere from 85 to 95 points. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, will be one of the bigger stories for them. Coming over, seeing if he fits into the team. Anze Kopitar, can he lead them to a deep Stanley Cup playoff run? And I keep your eye out for Byfield. I think he might have a sneaky good year, maybe 50 to 60 points. That's a hot take. Let me know what you guys think. But the LA Kings, I've got slotted in as my 3rd team in the Pacific. And finally, this is where we do get some change, and it is in the Pacific Division. It is the not the LA Kings. God, I saw the LA Kings and I was looking at them. But number 2 team, I think this upcoming year, are your defending Stanley Cup champions, the Vegas Golden Knights. I think a little bit of a hangover, Stanley Cup hangover from this past season will take effect on the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, they are extremely deep. They have so much talent. It's just a matter of, can they stay healthy? And if they don't stay healthy, can their depth help them stay afloat and in a playoff position throughout the year? I think yes is the answer to that if it does happen. But you've got Eichel, Stone, Carlson, Marchessault, Barbashev, which they were able to keep around, Waugh, Stevenson, Howden, Carrier, Kolasar. I mean, the list goes on and on with their depth. And on the back end, one of the most stout defenses in the entire NHL. Pietrangelo Martinez, Theodore McNabb, Whitecloud, Haig, Hutton, and I can't say that last guy's last name. And then between the pipes, I think Adin-Hill and Thompson. Adin-Hill obviously proved himself during the playoffs last year that he is a competent NHL goalie. I think if they stay healthy, there's no case in the matter of them not being able to have the chance to repeat. I think there's a strong possibility that they could win the Western Conference, but I think a lot of things need to fall their way and go throughout the season for that to happen. But Vegas, I think they'll finish 2nd in the division this upcoming season, which only leaves one more possible team, and that is the two-headed monster of McDavid and Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers. I think that they will win the division this upcoming season. I think now's the time. I know there have been reports where the team's showing up early, doing captain skates before training camp even gets going. This team is just too top heavy to not make a run or at least play for a Stanley Cup this upcoming season. Again, you've got McDavid, Draisaitl, you've got Hyman, Kane, Nugent-Hopkins, and then it kind of drops off after that when it comes to skill. But this upcoming year, you've got Evander Kane who's going to be fully healthy. I think that'll be a huge difference maker. On the back end, you will have a full year with Ekholm. I think Nurse being potentially fully healthy. He didn't have the best of years last year. I think he will have a big step-up year this year. Evan Bouchard will have another prove-it year this year to potentially earn him a future contract. Goaltending is the question mark for me when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, but I think Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner can be a competent duo where if one has to carry the other for a little bit, maybe like a 5 to 8 game period, I think they can do that, but they will definitely need them both throughout the season if they want to make a run in the playoffs for a Stanley Cup. That is the Pacific Division. I want to know what you guys think down below or in the comments right now in the live chat, what you guys think about my seedings for the Pacific Division. We've got right here, starting from bottom to top, Ducks, Sharks, Canucks, Flames, Kraken, Kings, Knights, and then the Edmonton Oilers I have winning the division. I don't, however, have them winning the Western Conference. That is just my take, but I want to know what you guys think about the Pacific Division. But getting into it, before we start the next division, I know we maybe need to speed things up a little bit more, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just taking a look at the chat. We're still good there. We are going to move on to our next division, as we will go ahead and clear this out. I don't want to refresh the page because it actually takes longer to reload the page as opposed to just moving the teams out of there. So we've got, let's pull over the standings from last year for you guys to take a peek. Let me also make sure that you guys can see that. Yes, you can. Central Division, that is where we are now, right here on your screen. And last year, as it finished, we had the Blackhawks, Coyotes, Blues, Predators, Jets, Wild, Stars, and Avalanche. That is how it lined up. That is how it finished. And teams not making the playoffs were the Preds, Blues, Coyotes, and Blackhawks. So that is our baseline for where we are starting right now. And let's make sure I have the cut right here. So this is the Central Division now that we are getting into when it comes to the actual predictions for this upcoming season, where I think they will end up. I know I just showed you guys how they finished last year. And again, it's going to be tough to really kind of interchange this division. I'm a little torn on a few teams and where I think they will finish. But I think it's kind of easy for the first one. They didn't have a good year last year. I don't think they'll have a great year this year, but they will be a must-watch team, I think, for sure. And that is the Chicago Blackhawks. I do have them finishing last in the division again, picking high next year, which I think will be more beneficial for them for the long haul than the short term. Obviously, the Connor Bedard effect will be in full force this upcoming season. I think it'll be extremely interesting to see how he does with the team around him. And taking a look here, let's see if we can find them really quickly. They still have $12 million worth of cap space. Taylor Hall, Tyler Johnson, Anthony Ciu, Foligno, Perry, Dickerson, Kurashev, Donato, Blackwell. I'm listing all these guys, and it's like maybe one superstar right there, Taylor Hall. Then you've got Connor Bedard on the back end, Jones, Zaitsev, Murphy, Tenorti, Roos, Phillips, and Kaiser. I can't really see his last name right there. And then between the pipes, Mrazek and Soderblom. Yeah. Not much to say other than really excited to see Connor Bedard and what he can do. Obviously, a lot of people have seen what he did in his first development camp game or whatever it was. Hat trick. Dude looks phenomenal. He'll make a huge impact on the community as well as the club for the Chicago Blackhawks moving forward. I think 50 to 60 points is super realistic this year, whether it's 40 goals and 20 assists or vice versa, 20 goals, 40 assists. I think it's definitely possible if he can stay healthy. I think that'll be the biggest question mark because he's not a big kid. He's in the NHL now. He's going to get tossed around a little bit. But hopefully those veterans around him can lead him in to the league in a good way and that he doesn't get hurt because nobody wants that. So I have them finishing dead last like they did last year. Next up, in the division, another tough one, but I think it is going to be another tough year for them. Again, they look good so far this preseason, but I think it's going to be the Arizona Coyotes. I just don't think they have enough still. It is definitely there. The future is bright. Logan Cooley is going to be fun to watch. Dylan Guenther is going to be fun to watch. You've got Kerfoot there in the desert. Keller, Schmaltz, they got to be the leaders. Jason Zucker, he's got that veteran presence about him now. On the back end, Dumba, Dursey, Brown, Stetcher. I think those will be their big key defensemen. And when you say that, it's like, okay, well, they don't have a superstar defenseman. You can argue Matt Dumba. I wouldn't say he's a superstar. I would say he's borderline, maybe elite. I think just below elite is where Matt Dumba sits right now. And then between the pipes, Ingram and Vejmelka. I was about to have a hard time saying that last name, but kind of remembered it off the top of my head. I think bright spots, Barrett Hayton, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz. And Michelli, however you say his last name. Look out for those guys. Should be fun, but they're not going to be great this year. Moving on to my next pick, this is where things do start to get a little bit more different. I've got the Nashville Predators being 6th best in the division this year. I think it'll be a little bit more of a down year than last year, going through changes throughout the entire club. Let me pull up their team also really quickly. I don't think there's enough there. They got rid of so many players. Yes, they brought in Ryan O'Reilly, and that's huge for them. He's going to be there for the next 4 years. But nobody really pops off the page when I see this team. Philip Forsberg still technically listed on IR. Who knows if he's going to be back for the regular season when it starts. Tomasino, I think, will be fun to watch. Maybe Cody Glass if he can continue to have a good year. Ryan O'Reilly, obviously. But I think the main noteworthy people, I should say, on this team are going to be Roman Josi and UC Saros. What type of years will they have? Depending on the years that they have, if they are healthy and they are good, I think that will be the driving force for how well this team does moving forward. If they're not buzzing on all cylinders, then the team's not going to be buzzing on all cylinders, and they could do worse than 3rd best in the division. They could be worse than, let's say, the Coyotes. I don't think they'll be worse than the Blackhawks, but I don't see it for this team. They're still they have a ton of young prospects with potential, but I don't see them making a run for the playoffs at this point in time. On the back, and again, we're looking at it, Yossi, McDonough, Barry, Shen, all super old, all 32 years or older. Carrier, Fabro, Lazan, that's solid young defensive depth, but I don't think they'll be able to put it together this year. Mark them down 6th worst in the division. That is where I think they will finish. Moving on up the ladder, I think this team will also be taking a little bit of a step back this upcoming season. The Winnipeg Jets, I think there's just been a lot of turnover, a lot of change, and I don't see them being a top caliber team for this upcoming season. I think players of note, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Ehlers, you've got Velarde coming over from the Kings, as well as Iafallo. Look out for them this upcoming season. They will be fun to watch. Cole Perfetti, keep an eye out on him. Morrissey and Pionk will be really fun to watch this year. And then Connor Hellebuck. I know he said he wants out of Winnipeg. Who knows if he will stay? Will he be traded by the deadline or before the deadline, depending on how well they'll be doing? I don't see them performing to the point where they make the playoffs this upcoming season. I just don't see it happening. Maybe Scheifele and Connor put them on their backs and take them to the playoffs, almost like the Florida Panthers last year. But they're not going to have 95 points. I'm looking at it to my right. I think they'll be around where the Blues were last year, 81 to 85. I think that's a more realistic spot for the Winnipeg Jets, who I have finishing the division in 5th position. Now moving forward, getting to my next team as I'm looking at my screen and looking at my prediction as well. It's a tough one. It's a toss-up, but I think I'm going to go with the St. Louis Blues. I think they might squeak into the playoffs somehow, some way. I have a sneaking suspicion that it will happen. Now, there's still a lot of question marks with their back end in this team, and can they get it figured out with Falk, Krug, Parenko? Can that get worked out? I hope so. I mean, Krug, very elite defenseman. Again, they're a little bit older, 31, 32, 30 years old, which is still not too super old. But on the front end, I think this is where the depth comes into play. You got Kyrou, Robert Thomas, new captain Braden Shen. I think 3 solid guys right there. 1 an technical all-star. Then you've got Buchnevich, Saad Hayes, Kevin Hayes coming over from the Philadelphia Flyers. I think he's going to be a huge addition. And then I'll be really intrigued to see Kapanen and Verana, how they can do. If Verana can have his form like he did with the Washington Capitals those last couple of years with them, man, look out. That will be a huge add for them. Jake Neighbors, I think, will be an interesting one as well. Oscar Sundqvist, Sammy Blaze. Again, they are super deep up front, and I do expect them to have a big year. Jordan Bennington, I think, is a big question mark. Can he put it together and have a solid full NHL season? I know he's a little bit of a head case, but we'll see if he can put it together for a full season, and I think he will, and I think it will be good enough for them to sneak into the playoffs and get it done this upcoming season with maybe having a solid first round. But that's about it, I think, for them. Moving on with my predictions, just taking a look, we've got 3 teams left in the West, and this is where it gets tough. Who do you have in that 2-3 spot is going to be the intriguing one here. It's tough for me. Do I think that they can have another solid season? Yes, but I think they will be in that third spot again, and that is the Minnesota Wild. It really depends on their health. Can they stay healthy to make a push for the playoffs? Again, this team rides or dies on Kirill Kaprizov. That dude is absolutely electric. If he can do it again next year, I fully expect him, or do it again this upcoming season and have a solid year. Stay healthy. Look out for this team. Boldy, Zuccarello, Eriksson Ek. You've got a bunch of other guys on their team. Marco Rossi, will he make the team play full year? Spurgeon, Brodin, Middleton, and then between the pipes, I think a very intriguing tandem with Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury. Does Fleury stay there the whole year, or does he get traded? I think that'll be a big question mark, but I do have them getting into the playoffs in that second seed, as well as then I have them playing the Dallas Stars once again in the playoffs. But this Dallas Stars team, don't get it twisted. They are a very good hockey team, but I think they will go as far as their top players will take them. And when I say top players, I'm referring to Rupe Hintz, Jason Robinson, Joe Pavelski. They brought in Matt Duchene, which I'll be intrigued to see what he can do alongside Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn. Can they make a push for a cup? Who knows? Wyatt Johnston, I know he had a very solid playoff last year and a good year overall. That's going to be fun to watch. Heiskanen, Lindell, Sutter, Hakanpää. You've got a very interesting back end. Can they stay healthy? Can they play good D-zone? That's going to be the big question mark. I think it'll be good enough to be second in the division like it was last year. And then between the pipes, you've got Ottinger and Wedgwood. I think if the Otter, Ottinger, has another solid year, look out for these Dallas Stars because you know they have the firepower up front to get the puck in the back of the net. That's my second team, and that leads me to the final team in the Western Conference, who I also think will win the Western Conference, and that is the Colorado Avalanche. I'm very high on the Avalanche. Let's pull up their team here right now. They definitely have a big hit. It was announced the other day or a week ago. Gabriel Landeskog gonna be out for pretty much the entire season, which is a killer. But even missing him, they are still so elite. They're so deep. You got McKinnon, Rantanen, Natushkin, Lehkonen. They brought in Ryan Johansson, more depth at the center position to kind of fill in for Landeskog being out. Ross Colton bringing him in from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Miles Wood bringing him in. Thomas Tatar, Logan O'Connor. You got Cogliano, Jonathan Drouin. Are they going to play him with Nathan McKinnon? That'll be really interesting. Former junior teammates and line mates back in the day. And then on the back end, you've got Makar, Gerard, Manson, Taves, Byron, McDermott, and Jack Johnson. Between the pipes, I think, is still their biggest question mark. And that is Georgiev and Francois. They have proven that they are a decent tandem. But, man, this team is just so deep. I don't see how they don't win their division. They're going to win their division. There's no way they don't not win the division. I think the biggest question mark, will they win the Western Conference between, let's say, them, Golden Knights, and the Edmonton Oilers? I would honestly lean Colorado. They've got the experience having done so. They've won a cup recently. They've got that fire in their belly that they want to do it again. Look out for the Colorado Avalanche because I think they will get it done and win the West and win their division. So that's my breakdown on the Western Conference and specifically the Central Division. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that one. But yeah, that's the full breakdown for that division. As we now move on, I'm going to take a look here. Comments, making sure we are still good, and which we are. So let's go ahead here and continue on. I know we're cutting it close on time for keeping it under an hour, but I promise if we go over a little bit, that's okay. So let's go ahead and clear this out. We've got the Eastern Conference breakdown coming right up for my predictions, and then we'll get out of here. And we'll cut these segments up into little snippets for you guys as well. Let me drag the divisions back over, and here we are. We're taking a look now at the Eastern Conference. Last year, won by the Boston Bruins easily with President's Trophy, 135 points. We will go ahead and break down the Metro first. Last year, it was Columbus, Philly, Capitals, Penguins, Islanders, Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, in that order from bottom to top. So with that in mind, here we go once again. I think it's pretty easy pretty straightforward who I think is going to be bottom of the table. I got to find their logo, and it is the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think that it's going to be a down year for them. Obviously, Fantilli coming in, going to be interesting. The whole debacle with Babcock and all of that, just drama, I think will weigh on this team, but I think the weight is off their shoulders. You got Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Laine going to be buzzing on all cylinders this upcoming year, but I still don't think they're in a good spot with how their defense is structured. I know they've got Werenski on the back end, but other than that, I'm not going to name any other players of no note, I should say. And then their goaltending, super big question mark. They don't have depth up front. And it's going to be a long year for the Blue Jackets. They will finish around, I'd say, anywhere from 58 to 65 points and be down there at the bottom of the division. Moving forward, again, another pretty dumpster fire team as of late, the Philadelphia Flyers. I think it'll be a long year for them as well. Let me just pull them up really quickly. I didn't even pull up the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I've got the presence of mind to pull up the Flyers just to show you guys. Again, Couturier, superstar type caliber. I wouldn't say superstar, elite defensive forward. I'll put it at that. I saved myself there. Cam Atkinson, Konechny, Farabee, Scott Laughton, and then it sort of drops off the table after that. On the back end, you've got... Who do you got? Who is your top go-to guy? I think one of the more interesting people for this upcoming season to watch, Owen Tippett. I think he will be fun to watch. I think Cam York will be fun to watch this year. Sanheim, I think, is their best technical defenseman. And then between the pipes, you've got Peterson and Carter Hart. Does Carter Hart get moved this year? Who knows? But the Flyers, they're not going to be really fun to watch. John Tortorella's killing them in preseason already, essentially, and it's just not going to be a fun year overall for the Philadelphia Flyers. Moving on to the next team in the division, I think it will be a down year for them, even though they have a pretty solid roster. I think the New York Islanders are going to be down this year. Why do I say that? I just have that hunch about me that I think it'll be a down year for them. When you look at their roster, it's like, well, why do you think that? They've got Barzal, they've got Horvat, Lee, Brock Nelson, Pajot, Palmieri. Their depth is very good. There's salt and pepper, run you through the boards, defensive style hockey. The back end, Pollock, Pelich, Dobson, Mayfield, Romanoff, Aho. And then between the pipes, you've got Sorokin and Varlamov, the Russian tandem. Something just tells me they're just not going to click this year. And I think other teams in the division will be better than them. That's really the only reason I'm saying that. By all means, they could probably go out and get second or third in the division, and I wouldn't be shocked. But there's something about it that tells me the Islanders are going to have a down year, whether it's they're hit by the injury bug, they just don't click on all cylinders whatsoever, trouble in paradise with Barzal, Horvat, their top goal scorers not being able to put the puck in the back of the net. Maybe Sorokin gets hurt. Again, fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but it's just something tells me they're going to have a down year. Moving on now, next pick for the division, and this is where, again, it's a hot take, because I think the Capitals will finish a little bit higher than the Islanders. I think they had the injury bug last year. I don't see that being the case for them this year. I don't think it's going to be good enough for the playoffs. You've got Backstrom back, finally healthy. Kuznetsov, stay healthy and stay happy in DC. I know there have been rumblings that he wants to move on. Oshie will be back. Wilson signed that new deal. Dylan Strome had a very strong year last year. Sonny Milano signed a deal staying there. And then back end, Carlson had that crazy injury around the holidays last year. Hopefully he comes back strong. You've got Jensen. Kemper, I think, is going to have a bounce-back year. And then, obviously, Ovechkin chasing the goal hunt. I think with that, it'll be a little bit better than they were last year. They finished 80 points. I think this year they'll be close to 90. But that is where I have the Capitals finishing in fourth. This next pick, again, might be a hot take. But I'm taking the Rangers in fourth. I think they do get into the playoffs, and they'll be a wild card team. But again, similar to the Islanders, there's something about it as I pull up their roster that I don't think it's going to click. Again, you've got crazy good depth. Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Trocheck, Hedel, Goudreau, Lafreniere, Kakko, Blake Wheeler, bringing him in, Nick Bonino, VC, Pitlick, and then Belizzi, however you say that last name. Back end, Fox, Trouba, Miller, Lindgren, Schneider, Gustafson, Jones, and McKay. And then you've got Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick between the pipes. That alone, that just, you say their roster, you're like, oh wow, this team is a playoff team. They'll make playoffs, I think so, but I don't think it'll be as clean of a regular season as they have had in past years. I think the expectations are still high, especially with the moves that they made this offseason. And I don't see them having a clean regular season. I do think, however, they will be an extremely tough out in the playoffs, and they might make a deep run. But I don't see it clicking on all cylinders for the Rangers during the regular season. That's just by no means saying that they won't win the cup or make a deep run in the playoffs. I just think it'll be a tough regular season for them. Still doing good on time. We will definitely run a little bit over, but getting to my next team, they made a huge, probably the biggest move this offseason, which I think will pay dividends for them, getting Erik Karlsson in, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They will be my third team in the Metro, and where they finish, it's the whole, they are getting close to their window officially closing for good. Can they do it? Can they do it essentially one more time with the core that they have? Malkin, Crosby, and Letang, they just brought in Karlsson. They have better depth than they've had, I'd say, the past 2-3 seasons when it comes to their forwards. Again, Gensel, they have him on the roster right now, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the IR for now. You've got Rust, Raquel, Riley Smith, bringing him over from the Vegas Golden Knights, which I think is huge. Lars Eller, Noel Acciari, Rem Pitlick, Drew O'Connor, Matt Nieto, Alexander Nylander. Who knows if he's actually going to make the roster? I know they have a few PTO players. On the back end, you've got Karlsson, Letang, Graves, Peterson. You've got Joseph, Ruedel, Ty Smith, not the best back ends, and then they're really going to be relying on Tristan Jarry. If he can stay healthy and the Penguins are firing on all cylinders, and Karlsson, let's say, has like 80 to 95 points, and Letang has 60 to 65, and let's say Jarry's up around that 40 win mark, look out for the Penguins. I think they could be a potential tough out in the playoffs. I think injuries will be the thing that will drag the Penguins down. With their age, it is definitely more prone to happen. And you can say that about any team, but I think the Penguins, this could be a year that they could sneak up in the playoffs. Let's say they get third or even a wild card. They could sneak in the playoffs and do some damage with the experience that they have and the more depth, I think, up front with some salt and pepper in their lineup with the Noel Acciaris, the Matt Nietos of the world. I think it'll definitely help the Pittsburgh Penguins this upcoming season. Moving to second in this division, it's going to be a tough choice for me, but I think the top two are what they were last year. I think the Devils will be the second best team in the division. We'll pull them up really quickly just to show you guys their team. And I think it's going to be huge years. Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier. I think Palat's going to have a big year. Tyler Toffoli, top goal scorer from Calgary last year. He comes over. Timo Meier is going to have a full year under his belt with the Devils. On the back end, Hamilton, Marino, I thought had a very solid year. Siegenthaler had a good year as well. Between the pipes, I think it might be their biggest question mark with Vanacek and Schmid. Can they have another year can they have another regular season like they did last year? I think it is definitely potentially there. Luke Hughes is going to be fun to watch him on a full year, but man, Jack Hughes, look out for this guy. He's going to put up probably 120 points this year. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 120, maybe realistically like 108. But if you put up 120, I would not be shocked whatsoever. Look out for the Devils. They are young and hungry. They got experience in the playoffs last year, winning the first round against crosstown rival Rangers. Look out for the Devils, but I think the team winning the division is the Carolina Hurricanes. They just have the pedigree to play solid regular season hockey. They play essentially playoff hockey during the regular season, and that is tough for any team to deal with. Yes, maybe they don't have any necessarily big superstars, but they're going to be a tough out. Sebastian Aho, you got Michael Bunting they brought in from Toronto. Svechnikov, I know he will be back soon. I don't know if he'll be ready for the regular season. Dmitry Orlov, they were able to get signed. They got Anderson. Ranta will probably be their main 2 goaltenders this upcoming season. But again, this team is super deep. The back end, Orlov, Slavin, Burns, Shea, Pesci, D'Angelo, like they're super duper stacked. Jordan Stahl leading the way up front. Martinook, Drury, Jarvis, Brendan Lemieux they brought over, Stephen Nosen. Again, they're super deep. They just play a good style of hockey that leads well to doing well in the regular season, and I think they will win the division once again. When it comes to the playoffs, that's a whole nother story. I don't know if they'll be able to get it done, but that's my breakdown on the Metro. I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. But that's it for that one, and we will go ahead and move on to the next division. And that division is going to be the Atlantic, the final one of the episode. We're definitely going to go a little bit over, so if you guys are watching live, I do apologize. Checking the live chat. No chats of note, which is good, I guess, for not missing. But let's see here. We've got the one more division, Atlantic. Let me slide this over, and let's make sure this is where the cut happens. So the Atlantic division is the last one that we are going to be getting into. It is going to be a dogfight for the top of this division, I think. It is one of the most, I wouldn't say the deepest divisions. That is between that and the Pacific, but this is going to be an absolute dogfight this year for the division. Overall, when it comes to last year, they finished, it was Canadiens, Red Wings, Senators, Sabres, Panthers, Lightning, Leafs, and Bruins in that order, bottom to top. And when it comes to my team that will be at the bottom, it's going to be the same one that was there last year. I have got to find them, and it is the Montreal Canadiens. Again, I don't think it's going to be a good year for them. They're still super young. I'm trying to find them here on this list. I can't find them. Where are they? Holy smokes. I was going to say they're super high up there for not going to be a good team this upcoming year, but maybe they prove us wrong. They got Suzuki, Caulfield, Gallagher. You got Kirby Doc, had a good year last year. Alex Newhook comes over. Sean Monahan, maybe he has a big year. They've got Slavkovsky. He'll probably have a full year in the NHL this year as well. Back end is probably where their biggest holes are. Matheson, Savard, Reinbacher, I think, is going to be the big bright spot for their back end this upcoming year. Arbor Jackeye was a cool story last year. Kane Gooley, again, they're super young on the back end, which I think will be their downfall. And then between the pipes, you've got Allen and Monteblois, however you say his last name. It's not going to be a good year for the Canadiens. I think there'll be bright spots. I think Caulfield and Slavkovsky will have the biggest years for them. So I guess enjoy their games, but they're not going to be pushing for the playoffs. When it comes to my next team on the list, gosh, this division is going to be really tough, but I think it's going to be the Detroit Red Wings. They did make some really good moves last year, or for this upcoming season, but I don't think it's going to be there for them. Larkin, DeBrincat, Kopp, Comfer, Perron, Fabry, Costin. Again, they've brought in some really good players. I don't think the skill depth is there for them, especially on the back end. You've got Sherratt, Gostisbehere, solid puck-moving defenseman, Hull, Wallman, Mata, Petrie, Sider. It's good, but it's not great. Husso and Reimer between the pipes. I don't think that's a very solid tandem. Reimer is barely a backup in the NHL. He is in the NHL. Don't knock him for that whatsoever. But I think it'll be... God, they finished last year with, 80 points? I expect it to be about the same. They'll have their big up, and everyone's like, oh, look out for Detroit. They're going to make the playoffs. But ultimately, I think they will miss out on the playoffs. For sure. Next up on my list of teams might shock you, but I'm not going to be surprised if they are maybe even below the Red Wings, and that is the Florida Panthers, defending Eastern Conference champions. They're going to have some massive Stanley Cup finals hangover, having made it that far. I'm trying to find them here. I just don't know if they can create lightning in a bottle twice. They are still super deep, don't get me wrong. Barkov, Kachuk, Reinhardt, Bennett, Verhaeghe, and then it starts to drop off there for regular season production. Back end, you got Forsling, Mikkola, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a huge addition for them. Mike Riley, Kulikov, Mahura, obviously, two guys I haven't even said because they're still technically on the LTIR is Ekblad and Montour. Maybe missing them. I don't know if they'll be ready for the start of the season, but maybe missing them for a little bit will be a big hurt for the team. You got Bobrovsky and Stolars as their goalies right now. Can Bobrovsky put together a regular season? I just don't see it happening. I expect a big drop-off this year, and that's why I've got them finishing 6th in their division. But moving on here up the ladder, I think it'll be a better year for them. Obviously, they move up one spot. And that is the Ottawa Senators. They are going to be a strong team this year, I think. It's going to be a battle for the playoffs in this division, fighting for that wild card. But Ottawa, I think, is going to take a good leap. I want to say they're going to make playoffs, but I really don't know. They're super young, and it's going to be tough. They're the Stützle, Tkachuk, Giroux, Tarasenko. Those last two players I just listed, not very young. But Batherson, Joseph, Kubalik kind of drops off a little bit. But I still think they'll be able to put it together. Their back end, Shabbat, Chychrun, Zub, Brandstrom, Hamonic, Sanderson, and Bedard Docker. Absolutely stacked on the back end. Korpisalo and Forsberg between the pipes, I think that's where the question marks come up. Can Korpisalo play well on a good team? I know he was with the Blue Jackets for so long, he probably doesn't remember what it's like to not see the puck so much. But this team, I think they're going to exceed the expectations and maybe even squeak in to the playoffs potentially. Again, that is a big, big P word with the potentially. Moving on, this is where a lot of people might throw some stink at me. I think they'll barely get into the playoffs, just with the top end talent that they have, and that's the Boston Bruins. I see them taking a pretty big step back from last year. Obviously, the center ice is the biggest difference maker for me with that thinking, with that logic. Losing probably one of your best centers of all time in Patrice Bergeron. David Krejci also gone. Who's their depth at center? And when we look at the screen here, you got Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, Patrick Brown, or Jesper Boqvist. It's not very deep at the center position whatsoever, but you still have Pasternak, you still have Marchand, you still have DeBrusk. But you look at the forward depth, it kind of like drops off the table with the skill. It's not as prevalent as it was in years past. James Van Riemsdyk, back end of his career. You've got, again, it's not looking great. On the back end, you've got McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Grzelcyk, Forbert, Zabril, Shattenkirk, which I think is a good addition. And then between the pipes, Ullmark and Swayman, a really good tandem. But can Ullmark recreate the year he had last year? I think with the lack of depth at the center position, it will really affect them being able to play regular season hockey on a consistent basis to win hockey games in regulation. And that is why I have them barely making the playoffs in at that 4th position in a wild card spot, which you're probably then like, well, who do you have in number 3? Who could it possibly be? It's the Buffalo Sabres, guys. They are on the come up. I'm super duper high on this team. Really excited to see what they can do this upcoming year. As I look at their cap space, they've got $8 million still worth to play, but they're pretty deep with some really good young skill. Skinner, Thompson. Let me list the young skill: Thompson, Cousins, Olofsson, technically Middlestat. You've got Krebs, JJ Peterka. And then on the back end, I would still consider him young. Dahlin, you've got Yoki Haru, you've got Owen Power. I mean, that's just insane. And then between the pipes, you're still also young. Ukko-Pekka Lehkonen and Eric Comrie. The goaltending might be the issue for them, and where maybe they're below where I'm rating them at being 3rd. But offensively, look out for this team. They are going to be a tough out during the regular season. And if they get into the playoffs, look out. Look out for whoever is above them. Let's say they get the 3rd seed. Whoever's in that 2nd spot is not going to be comfortable whatsoever in the playoffs, home or away, because this team can strike at any moment with their speed, their skill, their size. You've got Tuck, really solid, tough player. I mean, Tage Thompson, very tall, strong guy. Jordan Greenway, very solid forward. They brought in Tyson Yost. Again, this team is definitely deep. Don't sleep on them. Connor Clifton, bringing him in, as well as Eric Johnson with that experience. Whew. Look out for the Buffalo Sabres. They are going to be a tough out this year. Which, moving on to the next one, and I think that is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. They will definitely get back into form. I know last year was kind of a down year for them in their mind, but they're going to be a tough team to play this year. They are super deep. Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, Cirelli, Paul, and then skill-wise, it does kind of drop off there. But on the back end, you've got Sergachev, Hedman. Again, skill-wise, it then sort of drops off, but their depth is what really pushes the Tampa Bay Lightning and getting the best out of them. Brendan Hagel, I think, will have another big year. Taylor Mott, Logan Brown, I think will play big. Perbix on the back end. Bogosian, getting him in, as well as Chernak. So look out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And, of course, between the pipes, it is arguably still the best goaltender in the league, Andrei Vasilevsky. So look out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They will make a push. They will be solid this year. But surprisingly enough, we finally come to it, and you're like, where are the Toronto Maple Leafs? They're right here. They're going to win the division. And yes, I have them winning the division. And I was going to put them second just so I wouldn't have to potentially deal with comments about, you got the Leafs winning the Atlantic? Yes, I do. They are deep. The addition, I think the biggest point, sticking point for me, yes, they have their big guys. Their go-to three. They're Matthews, Marner, and Tavares. They have the big three. And it's been there. And we know what they can do, and it's really good stuff. And then on the back end, you've got pretty much the same cast that they had last year with a couple additions with Klingberg and potentially Timmins coming in more of a full-time role. But they still have McCabe, Brody, Lindgren, Mark Giordano. Again, super solid. But the thing that puts it over the top for me is getting the depth, getting the salt and pepper depth with skill. Bertuzzi, Domi were really the X factors for me, pushing that over the top of saying, yep, they're going to win the division and potentially the conference. I haven't said anything about anyone winning the President's Trophy in this video the whole time, and I don't think I will. But the Bertuzzi, Domi ad, I think, really does put it over the top, and bringing in Ryan Reeves and having Matthew Nyes for a full year. This is going to be a fun team to watch. If they can stay healthy and there are no issues, William Nylander basically playing for a contract for another team in the NHL for next season, because there's no way they can bring him back with their current cap configuration. And who knows, they maybe need to trade him before the start of the season. But this team, they've got the depth. Can they get it done in the playoffs? That is the biggest question. But we are not talking about the playoffs right now. We are just predicting each division. And I have the Leafs winning the Atlantic Division handily. Last year they had 111 points, which would have been good enough if the Bruins didn't have 135. I think they will crack 118 is my prediction for the Leafs this upcoming season, as long as they can stay healthy and if they can get goaltending from Samsonov, Jones, and Wall, because I think they'll need all three this upcoming season. But that's my breakdown for the Atlantic. I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm crazy? Let me know down below, and we'll get to discussing that. But that's my predictions for this upcoming season with the divisions. Let me pull up the chat. No chats whatsoever, but we do have 4 viewers, and I do appreciate you guys popping in on the live stream. It has been a fun one. I know we did go 8 minutes over. But first and foremost, I want to thank you guys so much for coming and joining the live stream here tonight. It has been a fun one to make. Again, this is the Puck Drop Episode 1. We went over the Global Series. We went over season predictions for the NHL, as we are only 17 days, I think, away from the official NHL season starting, which is super duper exciting. I am absolutely pumped for this upcoming season. Trying to think what else before we close out the rest of this video. Be sure to check out the description. We do have some promo codes for you guys to utilize. I'm not going to give any bets right now on preseason hockey. I just feel like that's just slimy to do. It's kind of unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen or come from it. So I won't give any picks or anything like that. I'll try to give picks during the regular season for you guys, and that'll be right above the ticker for the week. But this has been fun. First of many live streams. We will do one every single Sunday night during the hockey season. And depending on if you guys join the channel and make it easier for me to be able to do this on a more consistent basis, it fully depends on you guys. But we could potentially be doing like a 2 per week thing. But for now, we will be one every Sunday leading up to the hockey season, during the hockey season, and then depending on you guys, we will see where it goes. But I can't thank you guys enough for the love and support you've been showing here throughout the preseason leading up to the NHL. We are in NHL preseason. Be sure to enjoy the hockey. I know it will be brutal at times, but it is also a way, if you do live in those cities, to get out, support your team, go to the games because tickets are typically cheap. So be sure to go out, have some fun, watch some prospects play, watch some depth guys try to make the team. It's always fun because they are always trying super duper hard. So have fun with that. Again, drop a like on the video if you guys liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, but that's going to be it for this live stream, guys. I hope you have a good one, and as always, stay dusty.